Hey guys, welcome to the Emergence podcast, a podcast that aims to empower fitness professionals through candid conversations about building sustainable minds, bodies, and businesses. I'm your host, Laura Gunder, ex professional ballet dancer turned classical Pilates instructor based in New York City, sharing my insights from a decades long journey navigating an industry with no set path to success. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hey guys, welcome back to Emergence. Today we have Jordan Fairclough. I
Yeah,
said it right. Thank you so much for joining me. He's only in New York for 3 days.
yeah, 3 days.
Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm very excited to have him here. Can you share a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you for having me.
I would bring the mic closer to your face.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for having me. Yeah, quick rundown of myself, I guess. I've gone from growing up as a footballer in the UK. So I spent 10 years playing for Nottingham Forest. 3 of those years were full time. So I left school, played full time. That was my job. And kind of along the way, I realized that I didn't want to play anymore. So kind of stepped away from football or soccer and went into athletics, into sprinting, like fell in love with the sport so much. Went into sports science, did a degree at Loughborough University, and then came into working with Liverpool Football Club. And I spent the last 7.5 years working there for them as a first team physical performance coach. Had some real great times there. And but now, from January this year, 2025, I stepped away from my role, and I'm sort of on a journey embarking on what I would like to coach or how I would like to coach, and kind of just figuring myself out a little bit more as a performance coach out of the professional football setting.
Wow, that's super incredible. And can I ask let's start more maybe back at the beginning, but so like young Jordan growing up, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Nottingham in
And not
England.
not to him. Okay, cool. So what was the mindset during sort of the early years of your life, and how did fitness and athletics really play a role in your life?
Yeah. So I grew up in a family that played football. So my dad played, he was professional. My older cousin played, my uncle played.
And this
So
is European football
yeah,
because
soccer.
for all the
Yeah,
Americans
soccer. Sorry,
listening.
soccer. Yeah, this is soccer, European football, and so it was very much ingrained in the family. And I played football in the garden with my dad, and kind of got into it through that. And well, I always enjoyed running as well, and moving fast, and sprinting, and throwing myself around, and doing cartwheels and things like that. So I was always very active. Um, and then by the age of 9, I was at Nottingham Forest Academy, so I was playing football 2 or 3 times a week there, and kind of got stuck into that routine, and like that became my identity. And as I grew up through school, it was like I was Jordan the footballer who played for Forest, and naturally kind of felt like it was I was gonna follow in my dad's footsteps.
Mm.
But there was a period maybe when I was 14 or 15 where I gave athletics a go, and I gave sprinting a go for like a few weeks in between football seasons, and I really loved that. Really, really loved it actually. But at that age, it was a bit of a make or break year or two for football. Um, and yeah, I got offered a couple of full time contracts, a couple of like longer term contracts around that age, and I kind of stayed in football. But I was always just active. I always loved running around. I always loved like using my body to express myself, and yeah, just always loved sport. Yeah.
I kind of like I wanted to go back to something you said. You felt like you were kind of stuck in that identity. Can you kind of speak a little bit more about that? Because I can say for myself that coming from being a professional ballet dancer and sort of always being identified as or the ballet dancer, sometimes it makes it hard to like walk away from those things because you're like, when you're so young, you don't really know who you are anyway, so you're like, I don't know, you sometimes box yourself into, like, this is the parameters of, like, who I am or, like, what I'm supposed to do. Is that something you were aware of that time, or is that something you kind of have come to terms with more now as you've gotten older?
Yeah, I've come to terms with it as I've gotten older, definitely. I will say, as I grew through playing football, and got older, I did realize there were times when I didn't want to go back to training. So I
Mm.
remember there was one Christmas, and I can't remember my age, maybe 12 or 13. We had 2 or 3 weeks off from football over the Christmas time, and I remember really not wanting to go back. And I actually remember crying, like really just didn't want to go. So that stands out to me. And then there was other times when I might have been injured or might have not been picked to play, and it didn't bother me. Like, I wasn't, like, annoyed or frustrated, like, I said that I was. I sort of outwardly expressed, "Oh, man, like, I really want to play," or "It's not fair," or "I can't wait to get fit again." But, like, I didn't really feel that. I just thought it was something that people said. Um, and then growing up in school as well, like, in when you're sort of good at football and you play for a football team, it's kind of like a status thing as well. And at that age, I didn't really understand it that way, but it's a bit of a status thing. It's a bit of a popularity thing, and got lots of friends, and like everyone's nice to you. So growing up at between those ages of like 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, like that's nice and it's cool and it's enjoyable to be that way at school. Um, but yeah, I definitely had those kind of awarenesses of not being happy at times, but not really knowing what that meant, or not being unhappy if I was injured or out of the squads. But again, I didn't really know what that meant. It's just I was just aware of it. Um, and then it came to the ages of 19, 20 when I'd left Nottingham Forest. So I got released after 3 years of being full time, and I played semi professional. And playing semi-professional, you get paid a little bit still, train a couple of times a week. I was driving further afield and sort of getting back from Tuesday night matches at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then coaching in primary schools the next morning. And there was a period of playing matches around Boxing Day and New Year's Day. And I was just like, I don't really enjoy this. Like, I don't really want to give my time up for this anymore. And I remember there was one night I was lying awake in bed and I was just trying to like connect the dots. And I was just like, why did I start playing football for starters? And it was, well, I got into it through my dad and through my family naturally. Like, why do I still play football? Because I always have done. Like, I've not had a reason to stop. Did I choose to play football consciously? No. And do I want to play football? No. And then, like, that night, I sort of made that realization. Those dots got connected, and yeah, the next morning I called my manager at the time, Jason Lee at Boston, and just said, "Listen, like I'd like to terminate my contract. I don't want to do it anymore." And he was like really supportive. He understood like where I was coming from as a next player as well, and that was probably my first time making an adult decision for myself and sort of recognizing like where my identity stood and what I identified as, and it wasn't a footballer anymore.
So what was kind of the identity that you were sort of or the values that you hold?
It was at that stage I didn't know.
Mhm.
But I just knew that football wasn't for me. I just knew
Okay.
that football wasn't like my thing. It was something that I did and I did well and I could do better and I could improve and climb up the leagues and play professionally, but it just wasn't for me. But at that stage, I knew that I wanted to go to university.
Mhm.
I knew that I wanted to study sports science and study the body. And I had a couple of coaches at Nottingham Forest. One in particular, Darren Robinson, was really influential in making me feel like I was in control of my physicality. So he was like a fitness coach, a strength and conditioning coach, and he was brilliant at kind of empowering me and the rest of the players to like look after ourselves. And I remember wanting to go to university to have that effect on other people because of how he affected me. Um, so yeah, at that stage, it was 2020, 2012. Um, I stopped playing for Boston in like January 2012. I started sprinting 2 weeks later. Um, and then I started university that September. So at that stage, I just wanted to enjoy athletics and learn about the body and to get a degree, and didn't necessarily know what my identity was or where I was going with it, but those were the things that like were aligned with myself.
Interesting. That's so
Mm.
cool. Do you feel like you've always been somebody who's really good at sort of you don't need to I mean, I think it's a constant journey of like trying to figure out who you are or like what you're doing and that's always shifting and changing, but I feel like it sounds like you've at least had sort of a good internal compass and the kind of knowing when you need to shift, which is I feel like a lot of people don't. There's a lot of fear behind leaving things you're really good at. And kind of on that topic, so after college, you then got a job with Liverpool, or was that after?
So that was a couple of years after, yeah, a couple of years
Which is
after.
like one of the best football teams in Europe, right?
Yeah.
And that's like one of the most elite, probably, and intense like, atmospheres you could possibly work in. So can you talk a little bit about the transition from school and how you kind of got affiliated with that football team and what it
Yeah.
was like working in that really intense environment?
Yeah, it was, how that came about, I tried to put this off. It sounds really strange, but I must have been reading around, like, gratitude
Mm,
and displaying gratitude and showing it to people that you're grateful for, and I kept seeing a coach from Nottingham Forest on LinkedIn, and I always remember his name's Nick Marshall, and I always remember the very first day of my scholarship, which was when I was 16. I've just left school, just about to start full time. He sat us all down and he said, "Listen, like, we're not here to create young footballers." We're all a bit like, what do you mean? Like, we're here to create like good young men, and like we want to install good values in you, and we want you to be able to treat the manager with the same respect as you treat the cleaners and the rest of the staff." And that really stuck with me. So I kept seeing him on LinkedIn, and I wanted to say thank you for that message because it really did stick with me and held with me throughout university. And I clicked on his profile and I saw that he was working at Liverpool. And this is where I was hesitant because I didn't want to look like I was like trying to get an in. And I put it off like 3 or 4 times. And I was like, no, like I just want to tell him thank you. Like that's all I'm doing. So I reached out, I said thank you. I told him that I just finished my degree at Loughborough. And he naturally and very nice of him offered me the chance to go to Liverpool for a week of work experience. So I started that maybe a few months later, and at the end of that week of work experience, I got offered a chance to do a PhD with the club, and I shadowed a coach called Connell Murta during that week of work experience, and he was really influential in getting me back into the club and wanting me to be a part of the team. And I turned it down. So I turned it down that time because I just ran my best season in athletics. I just ran 10.76, and I've been at the British Championships, and like for me, like that was my like World Cup, or that was my like working for Liverpool. And I was just having such fun, and I really enjoying coaching in schools as well. So I turned down the PhD, and a year later had a phone call with the same offer, and I turned it down again. And then the third year came round, and they offered me the chance to do a 1 year internship, whereby it would be less workload, like less time commitment. Could probably carry on my training in athletics because they knew that was valuable to me. Um, and then kind of like leaning towards like the universe giving signs and stuff like that is like, okay, like I should probably take this opportunity. Like you say,
the
it's
3rd time is probably the last
third
time.
time is
Yeah.
probably the last time as well. It's Liverpool Football Club. It's arguably one of the biggest football clubs in the whole world, and like they've come to me 3 times in a row now. So I took the 1 year internship with the intention of staying for the year, and then leaving after that first year. I just kind of wanted to get the experience and then carry on my own little journey in the fitness world. Um, and then midway through that year, I just felt out of alignment again. Like I sort of wasn't sure why, but I just wasn't too happy on working in football. There was something about it that didn't sit with myself, and before I know it, I was at the academy at the time with the younger squads, and then before I know it, I got asked to move up to the first team, and in that first day, I was getting introduced to people, and I was getting told, I was being told that, "Oh, this is Jordan. He's going to be here for the rest of the season." And I was like, "Oh, like I didn't know that." So I went along with it. We stayed for the rest of the season. They offered me a 1 year contract after that, and then a full time contract after the 1 year one, and it was just like year after year after year. Like I was, maybe I'll leave this year, maybe I'll leave this year, maybe I'll leave this year. But yeah, it was 7.5 years, and it really was a high intensity environment, and high stress and high pressure and high expectations, and the schedule was crazy. And sometimes it was training at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then the next day it might be 1 o'clock, and then you find out that training has changed to 11, and the changes in schedule was quite intense. And my overall experience, I'd say, from what I tell people, is like I think I experienced every emotion there is to experience through working at Liverpool, like good and bad.
Yeah, I was gonna
Um,
say, what was, like, the core feelings you had? Like, if you coulda named the emotions kind of throughout the years.
yeah. Um, Maybe this isn't an emotion, but it's just a feeling that I had, just out of alignment still. Like that was kind of how I felt the whole time.
Was it sort of like, a feeling I'm just constantly questioning or just like, like sometimes I don't know, I hate this, like when you know, because sometimes people say those things and I'm like, "Ugh, what does that even fucking mean? You know what I mean? But I feel like when you don't know, like when you don't know something, you might not know why, but it's a feeling. It's like this, I don't know. How could I name that emotion? But or sensation. It's like,
It's your intuition.
yeah, it's like that gut feeling of feeling like just something is not right.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was. It was, and this was like mixed in with like really enjoying myself and having great times and having a laugh with everyone and loving some of the work that I was doing. But there was just like a backdrop or an undertone of it's not quite for myself. So yeah, maybe like out of alignment. Always had a feeling that there was something else that I could do or that I wanted to do, or I was looking elsewhere and having job interviews at different places still. And um, yeah, it was just an out of alignment, I'd say. Albeit through periods where like I loved it and like seeing some of the players, like a couple of players that I worked with from like very early on when I started to playing in the first team now, playing for the countries, it's like it's amazing. Like
You're
I've like
clearly super exceptional at what you were doing if they would keep asking you to come back.
must have been something.
I mean,
There must have been
clearly,
something,
like,
yeah. And I'll give honestly, I'll give Connell a lot of credit there. He was very persistent. So when I was at the doing the work experience, he was at the academy as well. And then by the time I joined on my internship, he was at the first team, and I think he was very influential in
who
bringing
what
me
was
up.
his name?
Connell Murtagh.
Okay.
So he, I think, was very influential in wanting me and bringing me up. He's now the head of first team physical performance now as well. So his journey's been like from academy to the head of the department. Um, so yeah, it was really strange. It's really hard to give it a sentence to answer the question, but it was loving it and hating it. Out of alignment, but not sure what and why. But just something just didn't sit right the whole time that I was there.
It's like being in a relationship where you really love somebody, but you're just like, "This isn't right."
Yeah,
I feel like that's how I can explain it.
yeah,
That's how I
that's it.
explain, like, ballet to people. I'm like, it's just like a toxic relationship where it's just like love-hate relationship, but, like, in the end, I loved myself more than I could ever love the art, and probably for, like, football anything that I feel like is at the top if you're working at the top of anything, it's like you have to love it more than you love yourself because that sacrifice is necessary to be exceptional and to, I think, sometimes take the I don't know, take yourself to the next level, but it comes with you have to be I think you have to know that you love it more. At least that's my understanding of any, like, elite performance sport
I
because
completely agree.
any of my friends who are exceptional and are excelling at the art form, they give everything. And it's painful sometimes for them, but it's like it overrides the sacrifice. But kind of like you, for me, it was never like yeah, I would get injured or I'd have and I'd be like, "This is great. I have 2 weeks off." And then, my friends would be like, "Oh my god, like, this is gonna ruin my career." They're, like, in the gym doing extra stuff. I'm just like, "La, la, la, la." I was like, "This is probably not a good sign." But okay.
Yeah, for
It's like
sure.
that weird, and I don't feel like there's like guilt surrounding it, right? Because I'm sure like you were saying gratitude, it's like Connor, you said you're Connell,
Yeah,
he gave you this opportunity, right? And you're probably so grateful to him. And it's like you're working with some of the best, most elite athletes in the entire world. Like, what a gift, right? And
mhm,
it's like they've chosen me to like, they're trusting me to work with these players and to, you're obviously impacting them. But then it's like also like, but I don't know if this is like, I don't know if you felt that like weird guilt for also having these amazing experiences, but feeling like, I don't know if this is for me.
yeah. That is exactly what I felt. Particularly when I said that I was going to leave. It was telling Connor was hard. But we'd had conversations in the past, and there was a year before that I told him that I think this will be the last year that I'm going to have. And at that stage, he wasn't the head of the department, so there were things that were maybe out of his control per se. And there was a change of manager at the end of that season, and with that change of manager, kind of was maybe a new opportunity for myself. And Connell then moved up to the head of the department, and him and John Power, the head of medical and performance doctor, they were both really influential in trying to help me stay and give me projects like the speed project, and like you're in charge of all the speed stuff that we do. Like we know that that's your skill set, your specialty. It's not been used enough in the past, but we want to use it and want to use you. Um, and you can start taking like morning yoga and mindfulness and meditation with the players, and like they really tried, and I'm yeah very grateful for that effort because I saw that they really did make an effort to keep me happy and to make me want to stay a little bit more maybe, but that undertone was still there for me, which was, yeah, out of alignment a little bit. And yeah, the love and the hate, but the hate was just like, I just need to try something else. I need to come out of the bubble of Liverpool Football Club and open my eyes to the big wide world. And I'd say since I've left in January, which is 6 months ago now, 5, 6 months ago, and I'm seeing the big wide world and meeting different people and doing things like this, it's like I'm so glad that I've done it, and I'm so glad that I've listened to my intuition and listened to my gut, and gave myself, like you mentioned, like loving yourself and loving yourself more than the other things. It's something that I described to someone a few times. Like this is all great, and it's really great, and there's parts of it that I love, but like I love myself more than
Mm.
this to keep putting myself through it.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so here I am, like 6 months later, and it's the best decision I've ever made.
Wow.
Mm,
And I was talking to a friend earlier today, and we were saying about like intuition and following your gut and talking about alignment, but also sometimes to get to that place of feeling safe within yourself and safe within your body. If you like come from, wherever background you're coming from, but if you don't necessarily come from money, which for me personally, I didn't. So it's like, in order for me to do creative projects like this, we were talking about it, and I was like, I wasn't really able, I didn't have the capacity or the brain space to let myself be creative because I hadn't built that through line of stability yet in my life. And I feel like I just want to talk about that because sometimes it's like people are like, yeah, just trust your gut, just jump out of the plane, just do it. Like, but I think we were saying that you actually, for a lot of people, there has to be some kind of structure and you have to kind of have some sense of safety spiritually, emotionally, physically, financially to feel safe enough to make that transition in a way that actually I feel like is in more alignment than just kind of jumping out of straight fear.
mm.
For some people, like, working with fear is great because I think it's, like, one of the biggest motivators, but for certain people, I think I wanna make sure that people understand that it's okay if, like, you feel like you're not in a place to, like, make the biggest changes right away, and sometimes it takes time to sort of build that stability, knowing sense of self and safety with other in, like, whatever capacity you need to actually feel safe enough to explore the other things.
Yeah, and I feel like, so for me, it was, I was paying attention to how I felt when I was not around Liverpool. And I
Mm.
was paying attention to the types of conversations and the people I was spending time with. And I was paying attention to how I felt in comparison to when I was at work. And over a period of 2 or 3 years, I noticed that, okay, like I really do feel more alive or more like myself or more aligned when I'm having conversations like this, or I'm talking to people about life skills rather than real specific sports science and strength and conditioning stuff. And um, so that for me over a period of few years really helped me to at least understand that that's maybe a direction that I would like to go down. Um, and maybe it's not necessarily working in a professional football, which is for me. Um, but to sort of maybe go the opposite end of what you've just said there, like I've literally I literally left my job in January. I'm selling my house. I've actually just had a breakup, and
Okay.
my car lease is over in October. It's like, but amongst all that sort of scary stuff is a real strong sense of faith and belief that I am making the right decision for myself. And I've had people sort of come into my life and opportunities, and it's almost, what's the word, like exponentially just happened. And I feel like by fully trusting all of that, um, I've allowed those things to happen, which if people are 50-50 about which way to go, like the safety route, or sort of just to really just jump at it. From my experience, just jumping at it has been awesome.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
I think it works. Yeah, I think my point is that I think as long as, like, you have that strong sense of trust in yourself, but I think my main point is if you don't feel in a position safe or super trusting of your decision regardless of the fear. I think that's different to be like, I'm scared shitless, but I trust myself and bet on myself. I know I will land on my feet. But I think if you're in an unstable position where you just are so chaotic and don't feel grounded and safe within your decisions,
Mm,
regardless of what happens when you jump, I think that's what I was saying. You should probably take a step back and put some things in order so when you do make that jump, regardless of the outcome, there's a slight safety net to land on.
mhm,
But, when you're, like, super confident and you're like, "Yeah, fuck it." Like, I've built a confidence, like, for your resume, you clearly, like, are super accomplished. You have a ton of contacts. You have a lot of sort of things you can fall back on. But for somebody who's, like, newer or younger, who might not have as many skill sets, not be as connected, I think it would be important for them to maybe network a little bit and sort of, yeah, build a little bit more of a safety net.
no, for sure. You're actually really right there. And like I'm 34 now, so I've been in the sort of coaching world for since I was 20. So that's almost 15 years of experience, of contacts
Right.
of. So yeah, definitely make the most of those things, gain them over a few years, and um, yeah, get that safety net, that foundation for sure. But yeah, it came to me when I was like in my 30s. I was like, I'm probably at a stage now where I can jump
And
and
bet on yourself.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
when I was talking to Michael, we were talking about betting on yourself. What does betting on yourself mean to you
Oof.
right now? It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, I say betting on myself means to me right now, I'd say it's everything I've just done.
Mhm,
Um, but I've also bet on myself just with a newfound faith in I'm not a religious person, but like spiritually, like
mhm.
in the universe or in fate, in however you want to describe it. And I feel I've had some quite profound things over the last few months happen where it's like so many things. It just felt like I was getting like hit on the head by like the universe or whatever, seeing like George, like keep doing this or go there, do that. And with those things happening in parallel to that was an increased like trust and an increased faith and an increased feeling of like I'll be okay. And it was really strange. There's like a 6-month period where like those things were happening and this trust was sort of being built in parallel to it. And now I kind of understand what that looks like and feels like. And I feel like betting on myself is just trusting in that gut feeling. And if those things kind of keep happening and certain people keep talking or walking into my life at certain times, then okay, like I'm like I said, I'm not a religious person, but like fully surrendered to it now. It's like, okay, I'll let you just keep guiding me. And yeah,
Mhm.
here I am.
No, I love that you said that, and actually but listening to your story, I mean, I just met him today, but it sounds like I was saying earlier, it's like, even if you didn't know it, it sounds like you're the kind of person who's always had that gut instinct and have followed it, but it sounds like now you just trust it more than ever, so it's, like, expedited, so you can actually move a little bit more in alignment with that gut feeling rather than always having that feeling or knowing, but you're just it's faster. Things are moving faster because you trust it more. That's,
Yeah,
kinda what it sounds like.
100%. I've been brought up to sort of believe in it. Like my mum was always kind of talking about this type of stuff, and in in like guardian angels and like fate and things happening for a reason, and the book The Secret and things like this. So it was always there in my subconscious somewhere, but I'd never really experienced it for myself to believe it. Like there were words that I'd heard, but there wasn't like an experience that I'd experienced. So yeah, I definitely have experienced it in the last few months, and yeah, completely now trust it and believe it.
It's so cool.
Yeah,
It's
no,
so
it is.
empowering.
It
I have,
is.
like it's, like, weird. It's, like, I feel like in a certain kind of parallel. But, yeah, like, this past year, I also have kind of really bet and, like, just started trusting myself and, like, also it's funny. But, yeah, no, I went through, like, a weird breakup in February, but I am so grateful for that because I feel like I don't know, I love breakups. Said this with Michael, but it is like a springboard, and it really is just kinda like throw you into the water and just be like, remember that in the end, all you have is you, so it's like, you might as well learn how to trust and make that part of yourself happy,
Mhm.
and, yeah, and, like, it's true, like, the universe does just throw things at you, and it sounds so so, like, kooky, but, like, it's true, like, when you feel in alignment with yourself, there isn't even when shit goes bad, it's like you can look at it and zoom out and be like, "Okay, it's just not in this isn't for me," but it doesn't devalue me, my skills, who I am. Maybe it's just pushing me in a different direction, or maybe I need to fill a knowledge gap. I'm like, "I thought I was ready for this opportunity," but maybe it's just telling the universe is telling me I need to spend a little bit more time preparing,
Mm,
you know?
mm.
And it's just such a it does make life a little more fun, right? It's, like, super fun.
Yeah, no, it does.
Um, but I do wanna ask briefly about working in that sort of going back to working with Liverpool, and then we'll zoom out of
Yeah.
that, and how is it working with athletes who are under a ton of pressure, and it's your job to sort of be stable for them? I'm sure, right? Because your energy is very important, and, like, as fitness instructors and stuff, I know this with our clients, it's like, if you're not doing well, it's gonna come out in how you're interacting, but for you, there's even more on the line, like, these players are playing in front of millions and millions of fans every night, and, like, your mental health was also probably a huge part of their success. So how did you kind of balance that?
Yeah, it's actually my probably my favorite part of the job was being in those spaces and creating safe spaces for players, being able to help them through tougher times and being that stable energy or that stable person in the building. Because it is a very, very stressful place, working in professional football, and a lot of people are under a lot of pressure, and coaches can be up and down as well.
Mhm,
Um, and I don't know what it is maybe about myself, but like I find that I am quite constant and I am quite stable. So naturally, maybe players came to me in those times or came into the office with me and Nikki. We really actually made a good conscious effort to have our office as like a space for the boys just to come in, and if they needed to vent, they could vent. If they needed to let stuff out, they could let stuff out. Um, but in terms of like my mental health around those times, like I had bad periods myself. So
mhm,
it was around COVID actually. And it was not having time and space to myself, I feel, which I see in hindsight, which was what was maybe causing a lot of it. But yeah, there was periods where I definitely felt like withdrawn, definitely felt depressed, definitely felt like highly anxious. And I was just in a different relationship at the time, and we just moved in together, and it was all like the honeymoon period at the start because it was yeah, we just moved in together, and then it was lockdown, and then we were in our house for however long we were in the house for, and then the work stress on top of that got it was just it was COVID. It was it was trying to work in a way that's never been done before,
mhm,
whilst carrying on at the highest level of football possible, with all these different constraints. So it was very, very stressful. And I feel like during that period, there was maybe a couple of months where I didn't feel myself. And all I remember really was coming home from work with the food prepared at Liverpool, putting it in the microwave for me and my partner at the time, having dinner, watching one episode on Netflix, and then just going to bed. And I didn't really talk at all during that 2 hours at home. It was one word answers, it was shrugs, it was like she knew something wasn't up, but I didn't know. It's weird, like I knew, but I didn't know that something wasn't right. But I shrugged it off and said I'm fine. But that went on for a few months, and like it got to a stage where I feel like I remember thinking, like, what does it feel like to feel myself again? And like, what does normal feel like to me? Because this isn't it. And
Did
I
you feel like you were, like, watching yourself? Like, as, like, an out of body kind of feeling?
maybe a little bit at times.
You're just, like, going through the motions, and it's just
Yeah.
sort of like
And it was just in this period at home. So like it was almost like I went to work and put the work face on, the work mask on, did my job as normal, showed up as normal. No one would have had any ideas of how I was really feeling. Um, and yeah, it was just when I got home. But it was yeah, it got to a stage when I was like questioning to myself, like, how do I make myself feel better again? And Like, can I even feel normal again? And during that period is when I kind of started to listen to a podcast called Feel Better, Live More by Dr. Rangan Chatterjee in the UK. And at that stage, he was talking a lot about mindfulness practices, a lot about meditation, and a lot of his guests were specialized in in those fields. And I started to implement the practices and started to go on the morning walks and started to have a bit period of time to myself where I just looked after myself.
Mm.
Um, I practiced breath work, meditation, other practices, and eventually through time, I ended up making myself feel better and like feeling more like myself. And having gone through that experience was really helpful for me to be able to approach certain players in certain times, or maybe just share advice with players that maybe going through potentially something similar. And there was one player who, like, I was kind of aware that he hadn't been himself for a period of time.
Was this reflected on in his game, or is this just, like, outside of the
Bit of both. So I think he had a, a year or so where it wasn't going too well for him at times, and fans were a bit annoying online per se.
Mm.
Um, and then like a year or two went by, and I remember talking to him, and I asked like, you seem to be better, like you seem to be in a better place now, like, and he said, yeah, I am, like I'm in a better place. I said, like, what was it like when you weren't yourself? Because I do really realize and remember like you weren't quite yourself like back then. And he just said, yeah, I had times when I thought about killing myself. And I
Mm.
was just like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
that was, it's still like, it upsets me a bit now to this day that this player went through that and felt that and thought those things. Um, and he said, like, I've not told anyone, like, you're the only person I've told.
Really? He
Um,
didn't have, like, a partner or support system or anybody
he,
to
he, he at the
family?
time was single. So he was going home to his apartment, sitting on the sofa and thinking stuff like that.
Oh my god.
For whatever reason, he didn't tell family or friends. And yeah, for him to have told me as the only person was like amazing but shocking at the same time. And spoke to him not too long ago about it, and he was just saying how it just doesn't feel like it was real life, like that period of his life. It just feels like a blur almost, and that he's doing so much better. But yeah, I think that's why like I've suffered through sport, either with it being out of feeling out of alignment, or having my mental health struggles through working in sport, then having him express that to me, it's like where I stand now or where I sit now is like I don't want people to feel those things anymore. Like
What
s-
like, exactly, what kind of things? Like, alone? Like,
a-
isolation?
alone, isolation, depression, withdrawal, suicidal, stressed, anxiety, anxious, paranoia. Yeah, like we all get into sport because we enjoy it. Like I go back to when I was a kid playing football and stuff like that, like just absolutely loving it. We come into sport to enjoy it.
It's the joy of the
Yeah,
game. It's like the love
it's
of
fun.
yeah, it is fun
And somewhere along the line, people sometimes lose the fun and the seriousness comes in and overtakes it. And
because the stakes, there's different stakes. It's
there are,
monetary.
it's
It's, like, different.
exactly that. And performance is important and wins are important. And but no one really teaches us, or no one really taught me to expect that, or like what to expect. No one taught him what to expect if things didn't go well on the field.
How to
Um,
process that
yeah,
and how to separate the game from the value of yourself. I think that's where the decline is for athletes.
yeah,
It's like if a performance doesn't go well, if a game doesn't go well, it's like, well, me as a human being, it your value goes up and down with whatever the expectations are for the performance or the game.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I feel I'm at now. Is no matter how I'm coaching or where I'm coaching or the roles that I'm having, um, I want to be able to help people in some way realize these things. I want to help them to understand themselves better, to see themselves more clearly and detach from their identity as athlete or as fitness coach. Um, because going through those practices for myself has been really important. Um, really important.
That's amazing. I think well, it seems The players must have felt very comfortable coming to you and talking to you about those things. And do you feel like you saw a change in, like, maybe, I don't know, the morale, or, like, at least a change on the field as players kind of got more comfortable maybe opening up about these things, or maybe just being more mindful about their feelings, even if they weren't talking about them, just being able to step back and separate whatever was going on in the field with themselves? And maybe, I mean, it's going to make you play better because you're able to not get in like a negative anxiety loop. Because I know, athletes or dancers or whatever, like, once you get in your head, it fucks everything up, because you can't move that thought feeling away, and then it just kind of self sabotages the rest of the game or the play, right?
Mm.
So it's like, I feel like you were saying, it's like we undervalue the importance of mental strength, mindfulness, having that ability to separate yourself from whatever the second is or the feeling or that moment is, to be able to keep moving forward.
No, for sure. There's strength in stillness.
It was really fucking hard to do that, but yeah.
Like, there's strength in stillness, and there's power in pauses and being able to sort of detach a little bit. And in terms of seeing, maybe I didn't see performances improve per se, but I saw and heard people's reactions to their own performances maybe a little bit better.
Hmm.
Um,
Like negative and
yeah,
positive?
negative and positive, and I can't necessarily think of examples, but people's yeah, people maybe weren't wrapped up as much in their own performances at times, which was nice. And we had, like I said, myself and Nikki, like we really tried to have these conversations, and um, I really wanted to make sure that people felt comfortable having these conversations, um, because through talking, that's for me is the first step to like helping myself and feeling better and realizing like that I'm not alone. And speaking to therapists has been amazing as well. And like I think the first time I spoke to a therapist was a few years back now, and there's just a relief of like, oh, like this is kind of normal to be feeling these things, or like other people feel these things as well. And I, I'm I'm not an idiot for feeling this, or like why didn't I speak earlier? um, so yeah, like creating the environment in the offices and in the training ground of encouraging these types of conversations was something that we did quite consciously. And yeah, hearing people grow through time and hearing their perceptions change over time, over a few years, and how they talk about themselves or their situations was quite nice. And whether performances on the pitch aligned with that, I can't really say, but maybe they did.
I'm sure it was, like, super impactful. I guess it sounds like you really just helped humanize people and probably
Mm.
make them feel more connected and less alone, which inherently is probably gonna do something, right? Because I feel like if anything, it connects probably the team more, and you feel probably closer and safer to, I don't know, fuck up, and people are just like, "Yeah, you're human, it's
Mm,
fine." And in that, I feel like there is a lot of connection.
definitely.
But I do wanna talk a little bit about holism
Mm.
and what kind of that means to you and what that is for you.
Yeah, so Holism, for starters, is my brand name, my company. I've not launched it as of yet properly, but that's how I'll be operating and the name I'll be working under. And it respects the things that we just mentioned. And like you said, like it's humanizing performance. It's seeing the whole person. It's realizing that there's physical performance, there's mental performance, and there's like personal performance as well. And um, it's connecting those dots and appreciating how they all interact with each other, appreciating that everything's connected, appreciating that a happy, healthy, mentally stable, confident athlete is probably going to perform a little bit better. Um, so I mentioned before about like how I'd like to present myself as a coach and how I'd like to work. I feel like holism is just an extension of me. Um, it's an extension of my values and seeing the athletes or the coaches as humans, um, removing the badges and trying to encourage them to understand themselves better, see themselves more clearly, and allow them to enjoy themselves in sport. I think that's ultimately what I'd like to get out of working for myself under the brand name of Holism is allowing
Really.
people to continually enjoy themselves through sport whilst maybe navigating around tougher circumstances. So whether that's me as a physical performance coach, a sprint coach, a strength coach, lecturer, yeah, I feel like this is just the stuff that's going to be ingrained in what I deliver.
Wow, it sounds kind of perfect for everything that you kind of been talking about
Mm,
and aligned with everything you've done so far, but it seems like this is something that, yeah, seems very aligned in what you were talking about and sort of that missing component to everything you were doing.
mm,
Is funny because I feel like the definition I've pulled up, at least of holism, is the idea that everything about you, your body, your mind, your feelings, and even your beliefs work together like a team, which is
mm,
kind of everything you've done so far is like all those points. But like this idea is exactly what you're saying. It's like putting all those elements together. And then what a cool like transition into your next phase. That's
mm,
really cool. And how does holism work in your own life though? So even with like the people you plan to work with, but how do you kind of integrate that into how you kind of want to live your life and how you want to work?
mm. For me, the first thing I'd say is I've spent time the last few years, understanding myself and like my values and how I feel authentic. Um, so I feel like I have to be authentic in everything that I'm doing now. It has to really represent me. It's knowing that for me, like daily routine wise, is morning walk, sunlight, meditation of some sort, journal, like something like that every day, giving myself time and space to be with myself every day. Um, and then alongside the working part of it, it's choosing the type of work that I'd like to do. It's being around people that I'd like to be around. It's at this moment in time, it's variety. And like I said, I've come out of this Liverpool bubble and I've come up and there's all these cool things around and different places and different people to work with. It's there's a sprint coach called Stu McMillan who's been amazing for me in the last year or so. A really, really good coach and a really, really a good person. And I was speaking to him in at Palm Heights in the Cayman Islands back in October, and I was telling him how I felt I was maybe a bit 50-50 with where I'm going with Liverpool, and he said that he'd felt similar at times in his career, but the way that he kind of navigates those circumstances or those questions in his mind are if there's cool people doing cool things in cool places, then he's all in. And
Mm.
that's definitely like stuck with me and has been a guide for me making decisions at this phase of my life. So yeah, at this moment, it's giving time to myself, being authentic in what I'm doing, and if it's a cool person in a cool place doing something cool, then I'll probably give it a go and see how it goes.
Yeah, it won't hurt
Yeah,
you. It won't hurt you at
yeah,
all.
yeah.
Wow, that's so cool.
Mm.
And so what's kind of like the next couple months look for you? What do you have on the horizon?
Hmm. So I go back to the UK in a couple of days, and then I have a week of coaching with one of the Liverpool players in Marbella. So he's like on his off season, so just keeping fit together. And after that, I'll be hosting a connected coaches course. So for me, that will be almost like a mentorship, guiding coaches through um, similar journeys to myself and just helping them see themselves and maybe a little bit more and understand how maybe some self-limiting beliefs or some unconscious and subconscious narratives have maybe affected them in their roles. So again, for that, understanding those things for me has been massive. So I'll run that throughout sort of end of July and August. I've not done that before. It's something new to me, but it's something I'm going to give a
Sounds
go.
amazing.
Um, and then I'm actually one of my close friends. He unfortunately was diagnosed with a terminal brain tumor about 6 years ago. But through that diagnosis, he's like flipped his life around into mindfulness meditation and like endurance sports. And from September the 1st through till the middle of November, he's going to be running the length of India. Yeah,
Gosh.
he's going to be running the length of India. So it's 50 kilometers a day
Oh my God.
for 80
Are you
days.
gonna be supporting him
So
through
I'll
some
be
of
there
that?
supporting him physically and maybe mentally and emotionally, just to be
Wow.
hands on the ground in India, which like the logistics of it is insane, but it's just amazing. Like he's an amazing, amazing person, Jack Faint.
Sounds
So
like a very
yeah,
cool
so
person.
honestly,
Yeah.
he's awesome. So that'll be the later end of the year. And then again, talking about cool people, cool places, cool things. I met a coach in Chicago not too long ago who was from Australia, and he was like, just come, I'll get you presenting in front of whatever and doing things in Australia." And I was just thinking, again, like I'm in India, I'm like halfway there, so maybe I'll go to Australia for a short period of time. But in the new year is when I'll be spending some time with Les Spellman, Danny Foley, doing the NFL Combine preparation in San Diego. So that's like it's
This is a
speed.
great year for you.
It's honestly like I literally pinch myself sometimes. Like I've created this for myself. Like it's really
Yeah.
like for all that time I was in the Liverpool bubble, wanting to do different things, wanting to do more, seeing what the world had in offer, and like I've finally given myself time and space to do these things. It's like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like I'm
Yeah.
really yeah, I'm really like actually proud of myself because that's something I've not really said all too much, and I've kind of downplayed some of the things that I've achieved. I'll tell you a story. So I was Liverpool lifted the trophy on the last day of the season. I can't remember the date. And I watched that match in a pub with loads of the Liverpool fans, which was such good fun. Um, and I was watching them on TV, and there was like a tiny part of me which was like, I would have been there if I didn't leave. Like I would have been on the pitch. I would have been celebrating. Um, and I was so happy for the players and the staff. And then like I sort of stood back and looked at all the fans celebrating, and it was amazing. And I was speaking to my therapist not too long after that, and I explained that to her, and she said, "Yeah, but you mentioned a lot about how other people were and how happy you were for them, but how did that make you feel for you?" And I was just like, that hit me, and I was like, "Shit, I never really thought about it." And then like I just started bawling. I was like, I felt really proud, like that I was involved in that season and involved in the club for the last 7 years. Um, and then she dug again, like she's like, "Well, and why were you proud? Like, what did you do specifically?" And I was like, "Fuck, I'm having to like celebrate myself here, which is something I don't tend to do." And I just told her like all the things that I did, and but it was an important lesson for me because I feel like that weekend watching them lift the trophy, whilst I was moving out of the house of my ex partner now, and like almost physically and emotionally and mentally leaving Liverpool. Like I'm leaving the city. I'm watching them lift the trophy. I've left the club. Um, but yeah, I hadn't really felt pride in myself for being involved in the club. And that was probably one of the first times. And it just, I was bawling my eyes out for about 10 minutes. And she just sat there on Zoom, just like letting me cry. And it was amazing. But yeah, I think that's definitely something I've learned the last few weeks is to be proud of myself, and again, I'm proud of myself for doing what I've done, but also for being able to create the experiences that I'm experiencing now, work wise and life wise, and connections and things like that. So yeah,
Wow, that's incredible. Yes, and, like, you just I followed you because we had some mutual friends, and I,
yeah,
um, kind of liked what you were doing, and then you just DM'd me,
yeah,
and that's why we're here today, and honestly, that's, like, the best way. I met my mentor on Instagram because I just liked her stuff,
mm,
and I wanna take a lesson with her, and she changed my life, and it's really just through honestly, what this podcast is for is just connecting and talking and having conversations about real life shit,
mm,
and just the honesty of like navigating your life through also helping others. So, I do want to ask a quick question though. Like, a lot of the listeners on this podcast are instructors, are in fitness. And um, what are sort of like some of the main themes or reoccurring kind of thought patterns you see in like athletes or like coaches that you kind of see as sort of limiting to their growth?
imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just say because I experienced that for most of my time at Liverpool. Um, yeah, imposter syndrome massively. And from hearing and speaking and conversating and reading with different people, different coaches, it just seems like everyone has had it or
Mhm.
everyone does have it at some stage of their careers. So like that's normal to feel that. I even felt it at a university not too long ago. A few days ago, I was coaching at a university for a while, and it was just a different setting. Like I've been at Liverpool football, soccer in the UK, and I was here was university students with different coaches, and even in that moment, I felt like, oh, like, am I doing this right? Am I going to do a good job here? It's like, well, and then step back and it's like, of course, like you're cool, like it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, like imposter syndrome, definitely. Um, and I really did spend time looking into like why that might have been for myself. And it comes back to growing up mixed race in a very white area. I got told a lot to sort of not draw attention to myself because you already stand out. So don't give anyone anything bad to say about you. Um, so kind of like kept myself small. And then in the academy days, having parents' evenings where you sit down in front of your parent and the coach and they tell you if you're going to keep a contract or not, or like where you've been playing well, where you've not been playing well. So the opinions of these coaches was like really big for me. Um, and so like I really valued other people's opinions and I really wanted to impress. But at the same time, I was sort of told to sort of stay small and not draw attention to myself. So fast forward that into working at Liverpool and how that manifested itself was for me keeping myself small in sort of staff meeting situations. It was worrying that the opinions of these other coaches was like really important and like how it could be detrimental to me.
Mm.
And it was maybe not sharing as much as I could have shared and impacting as much as I could have impacted. Um, and then on top of that, I'd just come out of uni. I just had a bachelor's degree. Everyone else had masters and PhDs and been at the club for 5, 10 years. And yeah, I felt like I didn't deserve to be there for sure. Even though we spoke earlier, like I've been asked 3 years in a row to come, they must have seen something in me. Um, I felt like for the first 4 or 5 years that I probably didn't deserve to be there. So imposter syndrome, yeah, definitely. And I think in athletes, what I've noticed, particularly with the younger guys in the 20s now, with the likes of social media, and
Mm.
they can all quickly see the stats of every other player and compare themselves to every other player. And by the time he was 20, he already had like 200 appearances, and I've only got 10. It's like compare. Like what was the saying? Comparison is a theft of joy. It's you just focus on yourself. I think focus on yourself. It's important to see things and see how the world's working, but if you're constantly judging yourself on how everyone else is doing or compared to everyone else,
Also, you don't know what's going on
you,
behind
you
that.
don't know.
You don't know what's really happening
It's
there.
very true. So yeah, it's social media is great, but it can be not so great at times as well.
It's a great tool if you're understand it as a way of connection. And if you use it, yeah, in a way of authenticity and truly using it as a tool to bring things into reality. But I think if you're using it as a comparison tool or as a metric of how you're doing, that's where I think there's a decline. I think we should, yeah, be more, I don't know, help kids navigate it and use it as a connective tool for reality
Mm,
and creating the lives they want rather than, yeah, a metric system to how they think they should be doing. Because we like I said, nobody knows what's really happening behind there. Because
mm,
my happiest pictures, they probably were, like, the least happiest
really,
times, to be quite honest, so
really. Wow, it's weird, isn't it? It really
yeah,
is.
it
It
is
really
super
is.
weird. It's such a like a matrix mirage almost. It's like sometimes you look at certain I feel this way about music, it's just, like, it takes you back to certain times, but, like, really behind that is so much complexity and, feeling and yeah, it's just, a picture is not it's just there's so much behind
Mm.
images. So,
And I feel on the connection side, I've met some amazing people in the last few weeks, and connection is probably something I've missed. Or maybe just making new connections, I feel has like been really like vitalizing for me. And people that I'm now meeting are probably a little bit more aligned with me because I know exactly who I am. I'm sharing who I am now online, and like my authentic self is out there, and people that are coming back to me are very aligned and similar. So I feel, yeah, using it for connection is really cool. And I met yourself through it. I met Michael yesterday. Um, So yeah, connection is very important.
And I feel like it just it's for me, it's like I feel like my greatest purpose in life, I've realized like my biggest value is community and connection. And no matter yeah, exactly. No matter the metric of where I guess I can measure myself against other people, regardless if I want to be somewhere else or if I'm better than somebody or lower than somebody, I find that when I'm yeah constantly surrounded by people I feel like who see me and hear me or challenge my beliefs or just excite me and energize me, then I feel great. And regardless of where my career is going up or down, like it just yeah, I don't know, it fills that part of you and I feel like it makes it easier to keep going
Mm.
because it's like we should be doing it together and especially now, I feel like in this day and age with AI and da, 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 and everything is sort of like there's a lot of fear. But I think for me, maybe I'm like overly optimistic, but I'm like, no, I think this is a great time to bring ourselves back together, to like ground ourselves that like we are still human.
Oh, for sure. It's we're humans, and for the last hundreds of thousands of year, community has been a driving force of our survival. Like we
Yeah.
depend on each other, and um, we rely on each other, and we go into sort of the brain chemical side of like oxytocin. Like we need oxytocin. It helps us. It makes us feel good, and something I've been sort of thinking about, and it's been driving part of how I'm working at the moment is like the feeling is the goal. Like
The feeling is the
the
goal.
feeling is the goal,
Yeah.
like, not the outcome, not the job, not the certificate, it's, like, the feeling along the way and
Which is
have
what
it.
you were saying about holism is just bring that joy back to
Yeah,
things, that
exactly that.
liveliness, that like vitality,
Exactly,
feeling
the
alive.
feeling, yeah, exactly, the feeling is the goal for me, and, it sounds like that's what you're sort of trying to get back to as well, and you're experiencing it through connections and community, and it's really cool, and I'll touch quickly on an event I was in Chicago, an Altis Speed Summit, which was led by that Stu McMillan and some other cool coaches. There was like just the experience, like when you leave somewhere and you have that experience and you met some cool people, it's like almost the content of what was delivered by the coaches is like secondary. It
Yeah.
was like the feeling of like the connection with all these people that you've never met before, but like you've left with phone numbers, DMs, and come visit me when you're in my city. It's
Yeah.
like
100%.
that's amazing. I love that, and that's probably my biggest takeaway is if and when I do things like that, or put on events, or put on coaching courses, like the feeling again is like a goal for me. Like maybe that's more important than the content. I don't know. Maybe.
No, 100. I think having that feeling, you're never gonna be 100% satisfied and happy, and you're constantly gonna be changing as a human being, but I think the longevity is in exactly chasing that feeling because I think that is your gut. Regardless of even if you, like whether you really understand or not, that feeling cannot be replicated. That's life, that's feeling alive, and if that's super important to you, I think that is learning to trust your gut because then you do feel super in alignment with yourself and then
Mm.
you're making decisions and that feeling is easier to like identify than trying to go sometimes through like what am I feeling emotionally like that can get very complicated, you
Yeah.
know,
No,
and
for
sometimes it
sure.
doesn't have to be that deep and like complicated like I am deep and complicated but sometimes you're just like Jesus like let me just chill and like live
Yeah.
and yeah, and sometimes, like, you know, when you have a great night out with friends and, like, you're up to, like, 4 a.m., but you feel so rejuvenated that honestly, I, like, go for a run the next day and I was like, "This is great. I got 3 hours of sleep."
It's awesome.
But, like,
It's
I'm living the
awesome.
best life.
Yeah,
It's
it's awesome.
amazing.
It's yeah, again, it's let's talk about it. So there's a guy that I follow called TJ Power on Instagram, and he has a theory and a framework called the dose effect.
Hmm.
So dose, dopamine,
I
oxytocin,
saw you post about
serotonin.
that book.
Yeah,
Oh,
very good
cool.
book. Get the book, and endorphins. And he basically just teaches you how to regulate these hormones through daily activities. And I think it was in the serotonin and endorphin section about partying and going out and dancing and singing. And I go back to the night when Liverpool lifted the trophy, and that was the first night out that I'd had in ages. And I'm talking like I was drunk for the first time in years, like honestly, like 4 or 5 years. I had the best night. I was just singing my heart out all night and dancing. It's like, shit, why have I not done this more often? Like, it was, but yeah, again, from the hormonal point of view, it's like, well, all these hormones are flushing through my body and making me feel great. Then, um, yeah, maybe it's not so bad to do it every now and again.
I think that's key to performance and longevity is letting yourself have that joy
Mm.
in whatever capacity and connection. Because if we're just so intense and working all the time, it's going to be reflected in our energy with our clients. And nobody wants to be around somebody who's like a friggin' I can be like that, like a drill sergeant. But like, like when you loosen up a little bit and let the people have fun and remind them that it's like, in the end, it's just a game
Mhm.
and we're just living life.
Mhm.
Yes, there's like stakes, whatever, but like, I don't know, at a certain point, you just gotta lighten up a little
Yeah,
bit.
and that reflects back onto your athletes or your clients as well.
Yeah,
Like, your energy is a mirror to them, and if, for me, like, coaching is trying to allow someone to express themselves, like, as themselves,
at the
and
highest level
at the
they have,
highest level
yeah.
that they can, and, the word authenticity's come up a few times, but, like, when you're in that state and you're acting in a way that's in alignment and authentic to you, from, like a flow state point of view, and like you're not thinking about having to do it in a certain way. You're not thinking, "Oh, I need to do it this way because Laura said I need to do it this way." It's like things happen a lot smoother. The movements are a lot more efficient or economical. Um, there's no thought process really going into what you're doing because you're doing it naturally. And then from like, yeah, you kind of more moving more in flow, and the performance is probably going to be a bit better.
Mm.
And then if you're performing a little bit better, you're going to enjoy it a little bit more.
And
Um,
you're also not resisting against something that's not natural to you.
yeah,
So the flow is natural.
yeah.
I think that's being a good coach is I always say, but it's teaching the body in front of you. It's like you have to put your ego and your super hard sometimes, but the way you learn best and remove it. And what am I working with here?
Mm,
Because that's how you're gonna get the best out of the person in front of you. Coach,
absolutely.
athlete, whatever.
And that's great coaching.
Yeah, but I
That's
think
great coaching.
it takes a lot of self-awareness, which you clearly have, like, and a lot of work, inner work, and I think that's why I have so much fun talking to coaches because the people I've talked to, I think we're all in alignment of like, yeah, it really starts with you. And it's not from a selfish place, it's from a place of self compassion and understanding that if you understand yourself, you can desensitize yourself and then
Mhm,
really show up for others. But
mhm,
like I said kind of earlier, if you don't have that safety net and awareness of yourself, it makes it hard to truly be vulnerable and able to show up fully for that person in front of you in the way that they need, not
mm,
in the way that you think they need,
mm.
which is like super hard.
It is, but with time, again, I don't know how old you are, but I'm 34. Like, it takes a while to figure it out.
I'm 29.
Okay, 29. So you've been coaching for how long?
How long have I been doing this? I started, I guess, like 5 years. I
Mm,
mean, I taught a little bit when I was, I don't know, maybe almost 10
mm,
at this point.
mm,
But the beginning was not great. But I was shit and like a drill sergeant and yeah, basically had no sense of self and struggled a lot. And that's why I created this because everything got better when I could really feel confident in myself, and
mm,
then yeah, everything I wouldn't have had the confidence to, like, do this or just, like, meet random people. I would have been like, "Oh my god," exactly that imposter syndrome, which I still get, but I would have definitely been like, "What do I have to offer? Like, I don't know anything." Still don't know anything, but it's, like, more fun to, like, talk about it with other people who think they don't know anything and then learn some more
for sure,
things.
for sure. It's
Um,
no, you're right. You're right. It's yeah, yeah, you spot on.
okay, let's see, what should our last question be? Hmm. What are 3 words that you would describe how would you describe yourself in 3 words? I know I hate these questions,
Yeah,
but they're
same.
kind of fun.
No, they are. Calm, um, calm, caring, aligned.
I like that. I
Mm.
would agree. I don't know, I just met him, but he seems very calm, caring, and aligned. So,
Thank you.
thank you so much, Jordan. This was really
Thank you.
fun.
No, it was
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you for having me.